When I first came onto the Solid Waste Authority in 1992, it was already a legislative requirement that county solid waste authorities adopt two plans. And one of those plans is a county comprehensive litter and solid waste control plan. And so the very first one that was produced for Berkeley County was in 1992. There were no recycling centers here in Berkeley County. If I wanted to recycle, I had to take my waste, my recyclables, to Maryland or Virginia. And that bothered me that it was that inconvenient to recycle and that we should do something about that. Yeah, well, when I first went onto the Solid Waste Authority, the Solid Waste Authority provided no services. We had zero funding. It was out of business. It used to run a landfill, and that was the source of its income. And that was what funded recycling and litter control. But there's a whole story about how Berkeley County lost its public landfill. I came on after the landfill was closed. We provided no services. We had no funding. We had lack of direction. We really had a lot of problems. Suddenly, I developed an interest in solid waste, specifically in recycling. County solid waste authorities are actually a fairly new creature of the West Virginia legislature. They didn't exist until January 1st, 1989. So I was appointed by the West Virginia Public Service Commission to the Berkeley County Solid Waste Authority, and one of my priorities was Berkeley County needed a recycling program. And so as I got appointed, got established, the Tab family was an automatic ally. They were already recycling, specifically organics, but they had learned a lot, and they were open and willing to work with us and educate us and help Berkeley County stand up its program. In 1992, we found hundreds of open dumps across the county that were actively being used. We found no recycling, no composting activities. There were areas of the county that had no trash service available. When the West Virginia legislature created solid waste authorities, they essentially mandated that the board of directors be volunteers. They were looking to remove, the money trail that had harmed solid waste management across West Virginia. They created these county solid waste authorities. They were to be everyday people who just happened to have interest and passion in the topic. I had never developed a comprehensive plan. Our board was just created in 1989. If you want to get a grant from the state of West Virginia, you better be able to point chapter and verse in that plan why it's needed. Same thing if you're applying for a federal grant. You have to justify the need. You just can't pull an idea out of the air and run with it. It took a year to 18 months to put together that first plan. And the most recent plan, to update it, took a year. Now, some of that time, that year, was involving the public. A lot of recycling programs, regionally and across the country, are more cans, paper, glass, sort of traditional household thing. You see that everywhere, but you don't see that in Berkeley County. We have a very substantial component of organic recycling because of our relationship with the Tab family. The largest, by weight, the largest item that's recycled from Berkeley County is brush. We have substantial volumes of yard waste. This time of the year, with all the leaves falling, we're filling 80 cubic yards of leaves a week. We have substantial amounts of food waste, lumber waste, all because of the relationship, the warm relationship between the Tabs and the Berkeley County Solid Waste Authority. There's a very large section that addresses collection services. In many parts of West Virginia, there is one waste hauler per county. Here in Berkeley County, we got something in the neighborhood of 7 or 8. We're uniquely different. That didn't happen by accident. The Berkeley County Solid Waste Authority, with support from legislators and others, recognized back in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, that the collection services in Berkeley and Jefferson County were uniquely poor compared to other areas around us. We worked within the system of getting permits through the Public Service Commission to bring additional haulers, additional companies to provide residential and commercial services. When the garbage war started in 1986, there was no such thing as a solid waste authority. It didn't exist yet. And one of the ways the legislature dealt with the two halves of the state fighting it out over those large landfills was it created a county solid waste authority, and it gave it the jurisdiction over site approval. And it was a classic case of North versus South. Southern West Virginia was totally in favor of these large-scale landfills, and North Central and the northern and eastern panhandles was opposed to them. And it really created monster legislative issues, turmoil. One of those 20 large-scale landfills was proposed right here in Berkeley County. It was proposed on Allensville Road in the Hedgesville area. It was proposed to be a landfill that would accept 500 tons a day by truck and unlimited amount of waste by railroad. Keep in mind, of these 20 landfills that I mentioned, they were so large, any one of those 20 could accept the entire waste stream of the state of West Virginia. They were monster facilities. They're often called mega dumps. Americans have to start looking and being open to different technologies, some of which are going to work and some of which are not. But we're going to have to be open to the new technologies in order to effectively manage our waste. People like to do things the way their father did it, the way their grandfather did it, and things change. My observation is our culture is slow to change, but there's no doubt I am very, very pleased with the direction of solid waste management in Berkeley County. I think the country is not far away from entering a new phase of managing of its waste. The Ensorga kind of concepts where waste will be used as a resource, as a fuel, are popping up. Very commonplace in Europe. It's almost more common there than it is landfilling is there. And that is making its way to the United States. But we became, in time, fortunate in that the Berkeley County Commission stepped up and said, we're going to add to that 20,000. We want you to do something this unique for Berkeley County, and we're going to fund it. And over a period of years, they have funded well over $1 million toward the solid waste programs. In fact, they have funded more at a county commission level. They have funded more solid waste programs than any other county in the state of West Virginia. It is the only funding formula that I'm aware of that's based on population in West Virginia. It took 2 or 3 years to pass. It had to sustain a veto of the governor. Jim Justice vetoed it at one point, just to demonstrate the pushback to it from across the state. But it ultimately did prevail, and it's law today. So this is the Comprehensive Litter and Solid Waste Control Plan. This is the plan that was most recently adopted in the year 2022. So it is not sitting on a shelf. It is, every time a grant is written, it's brought out. And it's a really wealth of information. You open this book, you're going to see charts, graphs, you're going to see numbers, you're going to see data going back 2 and 3 decades to show you where we started, where we are, and hopefully where we're going. Berkeley County's recycling program is now, by weight, the largest recycling program in the state of West Virginia. And we would not have achieved that if not for organics and the relationship with the Tabb family. You know, Berkeley County has a very aggressive litter pickup or roadside litter pickup program. Apple Valley accepts all that trash for free. They pay the disposal cost. We have a stream cleanup program. They do the same thing. They provide containers. And as long as we work with them and make sure the right stuff is in the right container, they do the same thing there. They dispose of that trash at no cost to the Solid Waste Authority because they're truly engaged in the community. Berkeley County's latest siting plan It was just approved a month ago by the state of West Virginia. It has to be updated every 5 years. And if you don't, you're not eligible for grants. And as you can see, it's a thorough document. It takes a lot of work. But this plan decides if somebody was to propose a landfill tomorrow, let's say Jarrettstown, this plan is what would decide whether or not the site of that landfill is suitable. We were going to be the home of a mega dump. We were going to be an East Coast dumping ground, and it happened on my dime. Now, as it turned out, through appeals, that didn't happen. In the end, it's everything, because the most predominant method we use in this region for managing our waste is landfilling. A couple components of what makes recycling successful is not only education, but it's convenience. And when you only have 2 centers it takes you 30 minutes to drive halfway across the county to get to a recycling center, that's not convenient. If we had a recycling center in the north end of the county, the amount of people recycling would probably double. And once the landfills are full, it is very difficult to expand them and nearly impossible to site a new one. Protecting the capacity that's there through recycling and composting and alternatives today makes it very critical to extending the life of that landfill, because the next landfill, wherever it's going to be, is going to be farther away, going to be more expensive to access, means your trash bill is going to be higher, which means you run the risk of more litter, more open dumping, and repeating the cycle all over again. So developing the recycling infrastructure, composting infrastructure, transfer station infrastructure is vital. Developing it today is vital for the future economic development of Berkeley County in the future.